PLCs, or Programmable Logic Controllers, are devices that are solid-state and provide many functions for an electrical control system. They can be simple, like this brick-style PLC inside of this control cabinet. Notice how many wires, though, are applied to this PLC. Documenting this in such a way that an electrical installer can fully complete the task at hand is quite difficult without good documentation. Imagine a more complex PLC, a rack-mount PLC with many modules. Here is a schematic representation of what the electrical installer will see. On the left-hand side is the same exact brick-style PLC, and all the wires connecting to it. Notice that each port is labeled, and each wire type is fully described, and we have a ladder logic diagram showing what the actual circuit in the PLC is programmatically doing. The PLC has a manufacturer and mark number and part number. Also available on the PLC are the I/O fields, the input-output fields, and mnemonic information. PLCs can be spread across multiple pages as well, as you see on this 8-2, and it can be hyperlinked to another page. Here is page 8, showing the continuation of that PLC, with the available circuits and ladder logic that is added to the PLC. Notice that the PLC is a component as well. If we go to our chassis inside our main electrical enclosure, we can add a new PLC in this way. This is one of the best ways of adding a new PLC. A root mark is applied, as a normal component would be, and we search for the PLC just the same way as we search for other components. We can sort on manufacturer, number of circuits, part number, many different ways. Notice the different types of manufacturers that are in the default database of SOLIDWORKS Electrical. Let's sort this on the number of circuits that we're looking for. We know we need a 12-circuit PLC. Siemens presents us with a choice. Notice all the inputs and outputs that are provided to the user. Of course, since not every PLC is in here, you can add your own, but this is a huge time savings having this information ready to go from the product sheet of the manufacturer. Now that we're adding this to our project, we can then add the schematic information for that brand new PLC that we've just added. To add this information, it's quite simple. Let's close out all these sheets, and we'll create a new schematic page. And by right-clicking on the PLC in the component browser, we can insert the schematic information. When we do this, we get a preview of the object showing the default layout. We also have a listing of all the input and output and mnemonic addresses for that PLC. The checkboxes represent what we have shown, so if we uncheck several of the check marks and go to our preview, notice that we're not showing the entirety of our PLC. Now to place the PLC, we can change the direction so it swaps the right and left-hand version of it, so our wires will be attached one side or the other. To get mnemonic information, we need to establish I/O addresses on the PLC. So let's right-click and select a number of objects in a row and associate the I/O. We'll tell it to create new I/O, and notice that it only creates mnemonic addresses for actual rows with address information. Once we accept that, we can place the second part of the symbol automatically. In this case, we will escape out of that and show what we have so far. Let's zoom in. Notice that we're selecting the Siemens PLC, and the mnemonic addresses that we added are already applied to the symbol. Once again, a massive time savings from having to do this manually and creating errors by transcribing things by hand. Now that we have our pin information, we can attach wires to the pins. A common way of doing this on a PLC is to just click one wire here. We'll pick pin 5 and draw a wire up and out, and then connect the rest of the wires to the main line. Of course, a copy and a paste would be acceptable for this as well. Now that we've zoomed out, we can take our next step and add the rest of the PLC information. It automatically remembers what is left to be added. So let's apply those. And if we want to assign mnemonic addresses, let's add new input and output. We can do that by a button or a right-click menu. And let's place it with the wires facing the other direction in this case. If we look at the information that builds the PLC, we can edit that information at any time through the grid menu and the part properties. Notice our physical address is added, and we can change this at any time to match something that might have changed. We can also go to the PLC's menu on the projects list, and this will show you any PLC being used in the project. And here's PLC 1, the one that we've just added, and all of its information in a larger view. There's opportunity here to establish descriptive information to what the circuits are doing, which we will get to shortly. Let's clean this up a little bit and go back to our other options for dropping in PLC drawings. Notice that even by deleting the PLC information from the drawing, it still remembers it from the database. This time we want to go ahead and create associated macros that have standard information relating to each circuit. Each PLC can have default circuits that are applied to it, and you can switch the circuits that you wish to use by hitting the associated macro button. This will get you 90% of the way there, and then you make alterations to what is left. Let's zoom in. See that we have circuits now established to everything with a mnemonic address. Relay coils, push-button switches, and terminal strips. Let's just make this look a little bit better, connect all the wires up. We can switch out part numbers or use the standards.